Honey Gump.
Yeah.
That could go a number of different ways depending on who you're talking to. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Spoiler Room. We're fantastically dark this month, where we've been looking at dark fantasy films, and we looked at Dragon Slayer, and then we had our first Animation Nation episode, The Black Cauldron, which dropped last week. Actually, this was just this weekend. I was late in dropping it, so it's out there now, folks. I apologize for the lateness on that. And tonight we are talking another one, a star-filled film of sorts, if you will, by a known name. And we are looking at Ridley Scott directed film called Legend, this kind of neo fantasy film of sorts, if you will, and definitely looking forward to talking about it. So thank you for pulling up a chair, popping your favorite drink, and talking movie spoilers with us. And I have my wonderful right-hand man with us tonight. He keeps coming back for more. I think we've pulled him back. I think he was putting his foot out the door. He had a toe out because of the last film.
A full hoof, Mark. It was a full hoof.
He had a full hoof. But then we've picked this, and I think he didn't leave yet. He's still with us. So how you doing, Ian?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited to talk about Legend. I'm glad that we're kicking off the new year with a positive note instead of me just being grumpy or gumpy about everything that we've just been discussing this month.
Oh, it just, and I don't blame it. I mean, they've been mixed bagged films for sure. But tonight, yes, we have Legend. And so, Ian, by all means, please, sir, could you give the synopsis of Legend?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward movie. There's this fantasy realm, and there's a erstwhile princess named Lily, played by Mia Sara. She's frolicking around, and she's got he's a person, but I'm gonna call him like a woodland creature named Jack, played by Tom Cruise, and they kind of have a thing for each other. And there's Darkness, played by Tim Curry, who is the embodiment of evil and darkness, as you might imagine, and he wants to consume all of this fantasy world in darkness because he hates the sun and he hates light and he hates goodness. So in order to do that, he needs to exterminate all the unicorns in the land by having his minions chop off their horns. And he is able to do that because Lily and Jack there's a lot of frolicking in the first part of this movie. They're frolicking through the woods, and they come across a unicorn, and Lily goes up and pets it and touches it. But that leads the goblin minions of darkness to find the unicorns. They chop off its horn, and then, as prophesized, everything gets plunged into darkness. Now, there's one other unicorn, I think, because there's a couple of them at the end. So I don't know if these were supposed to be the last two unicorns before the miracle happened or what. But
they're a pair, male and female.
So there's one last unicorn that Jack and his friends try to protect while also finding a way to defeat darkness. Darkness kidnaps Lily, and there's a big battle. And as you might imagine, it's a mid-'80s fantasy movie, so it doesn't have that dark pathos of like, oh, darkness triumphs and Lily and Jack die in each other's arms, run through with a unicorn, kind of like Friday the 13th Part 2. I was very surprised by this movie. It was the first time watching it, and I'm curious because, unfortunately, I saw the mandate that we were going to talk about the U.S. version after I'd already watched what I imagine is the famous UK cut, because I rented this from a library DVD. It's really old. So there's like a 26-minute difference between the two cuts. So I'm curious to find out, if you watched the US cut, what did you miss that I saw? And was I right when I was watching some of this? As much as I love the movie, I was like, I imagine this got cut for US audiences, if not for anything else but time, because there's parts of this that are practically slow cinema. Gorgeous looking slow cinema, but slow cinema nonetheless.
Yeah, I watched both today.
Hell,
that's how much I love this show. And you folks out there, I watched the US version. I rented that on off of Amazon, because that's the version that they have up there, the 97-minute one or what, 100-minute one. It's like, and it was a 97-minute one, and then the hour and 45-minute one I watched later. My friend had a copy.
Wait, 145?
Let's see. I think it was because there's a couple different cuts.
Okay, the one I watched was it was labeled as the director's cut, and that was 153.
Or 153, that's what it was. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
153. Cool. No, that was the one that I watched, was the 153 one. And the one that was for audiences was in 1 hour and 34 minutes. So it was 94-minute version.
Oh.
So yeah. Watching them both back to back, the director's cut, the European cut, if you will, is better, is far better, in many ways, in the narrative that they tell. There's scene rearrangement, which we'll get into in a little bit, but so you enjoyed this one though, did you?
Yeah, and I think part of it is the cinematography and the music by Jerry Goldsmith go a long way, along with just you could tell this is the same director. I didn't know if it was the same cinematographer as who worked with Scott on Alien, but this looked like, what if the interiors of the Nostromo were broadened out into a mystical fantasy land, because there's a lot of similarities in here with the blowing steam and sort of the kind of the dankness of that the dungeons and things like that. The lighting, the lighting when Jack goes into that kind of cave that has all the armor, and that's where he gets his sword. That looked like the deleted nest scene from the first Alien, where Ripley encounters Tom Skerritt. Like, it looks the same, except one is made out of metal and armaments, and the other is alien organic tissue and people.
Yeah. So the director of this was not the director of Alien, but he did.
Ridley Scott.
I mean, the cinematographer.
Okay,
excuse me.
got it.
The director of cinematography. He did not do Alien, looking at his director of photography credits, but he's done a number of other films that we've discussed on this show. He was the director of photography for Raw Deal, for Labyrinth. He did Labyrinth. He did Alien 3, Demolition Man, Black Beauty. He was a cinematographer for Hamlet, Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet, where they actually used actual cinescope cameras. So I mean, the guy, there's some skill there. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, he's go ahead.
Excalibur. He did the cinematography for Excalibur.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, there beyond the skill, I mean, and it's very interesting that it's not the same DP between this and Alien, because there's a lot of, I mean, I would almost want to do like a side-by-side comparison with the aesthetics. But yeah, it was very impressive. It's very immersive. The creature designs done by Rob Bottin. I mean, he's the person who gave us all the gooey creatures from The Thing 3 years before this. And the main thing, I was thinking about this all day in the back of my head. Maybe you can help me out with this. This is one of the few times where I can consider Tom Cruise to be an actor and not a movie star. And that's not a slam, because there's a difference. Has there been another Tom Cruise role where he played humility?
Oh, yeah, that's well, I mean, there's been roles where he's acting with you.
No, but where?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about a cocky character who's brought down a few pegs. I'm talking about a genuine innocent character.
Oh,
he never has that Tom Cruise. He smiles at Lily in this movie, but he's never like, I'm Maverick kind of a smile.
He's not the Maverick, the suave guy smile. No, he's not. Yeah, it's an interesting role. It's a different role. It's still young. We've got still young Cruise here, because this is uh was this is after Risky Business, but just before Top Gun, I think it was. It's like nestled right in the middle.
Which was directed by Ridley Scott's brother, Tony Scott.
Yeah.
Scott Sandwich.
Oddly enough. And apparently Tom Cruise didn't like his performance in this film because I believe the quote is something along the lines of, he was just another color of paint in a Ridley Scott picture. So I think he didn't care for it, doesn't care for his performance in it, maybe because he's not like the guy in it, maybe. Like you said, maybe it's because it's humility, the personality of his Jack character. Ironically, he's playing Jack. Jack character. His character definitely has a softer personality. It's not a, hey, I'm here and dominating the room when I walk in. He feels more of an average Joe type of guy in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely heroic and he's noble, but he is, he's an innocent living in this weird fantasy world. But he also can get upset by things.
Yes.
Like Lily being a complete idiot and nearly destroying the world. I mean, she knows about these unicorns and everything that can happen if she messes with them, or if the darkness is able to get to them. And she's like, I want to touch one. And, she realizes it after it's too late. And then she's like, I think she says something like, I didn't think this would happen. I'm like, oh, and Jack, to his credit, is like kind of like rolling his eyes. He's like, look, I like you and everything, but come on.
Yeah. Well, she didn't suspect that they were being, followed by goblins. So
how long has she lived in this world?
They seem to, they know there's fairy folk and such, but I don't know if she had thought of goblins. So who knows? It's hard to say how prevalent the darkness forces, because they can't go into, because there's sunlight. Some of them can't go out there. I'm not sure. But
they don't establish a whole lot about this world.
No.
But when you've got a fortress in which the darkness lives that is within walking distance of wherever Lily grew up.
That's true.
And there's town folk and all this other stuff. There would have at least been stories.
Yeah. Yeah, there would have at least been stories. So it's hard to say, maybe she was just so captivated, and you can chalk it up maybe a little bit to her naivety, because she's supposed to be an innocent as well.
Well, but it's beyond that, because Jack warns her several times, like, hey, I'm going to show you this cool thing. Hey, let's watch this cool thing. No, you can't go over there. Lily, what are you doing? Lily, don't. Lily, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like, dude, what'd you do? What the hell? Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic between them, because she and that's what I love too. This film, it's for the scope and the production design and the world that it's supposed to take place in. This is actually a very economic film if you think about it overall, even though you've got wonderful makeup effects and sets and everything, because we've got Lily, who is referred to as a princess, and it is by all rights that she's the stereotypical princess leaving the castle to go out to the common folk and experience the woods, and because she fell in love with a nature boy, that type of story, the diamond in the rough, so to speak. But we never meet her parents. It's never really addressed that she's royalty, even when she meets up with the darkness, the darkness has just got, he's just got the hots for her. It doesn't really matter that she's royalty or not to him.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he doesn't need to take over her kingdom in order to conquer the world. There's no jealous prince waiting back at the castle, who wants to destroy Jack because, Lily loves him instead of the prince or something. I liked, as much as I was giving it crap and kind of jokingly so about how could she not have known any of this stuff? I do like that we are kind of dropped into this world and left to figure things out for ourselves.
Mhm.
Because when Jack encounters the Gump and the other kind of the helpful creatures, it and maybe I because it was the first time I watched it was between the last couple of days and today. He almost didn't seem to know them, but he took up with them because they could help. So I'm not sure exactly how much Jack knew about who was living in these woods with him.
He knew of them, but not necessarily those individual characters. At least um Gump. At least he wasn't sure on Gump. He's met people like them, but Gump knew everything about him. Um, and you know, I liked that. I also liked the fact that this does lean a little bit more into the classic fairy tale stuff because your fairies aren't exactly nice.
Mm.
You're warned about fairies. They aren't exactly looked upon well. Your elves here are more like elves from Santa's workshop than they are elves from like Lord of the Rings. They aren't you're it took me a minute when they referred to them like, wait, aren't those dwarf? No, those are elves. Billy Barty is in here, and they must have got the makeup from Canon, because they closed up shop on Masters of the Universe, and they had this makeup yet, and so they didn't even have him take it off. They're just like, dude, hey, come over here and be in Legend. He's like, oh, okay. So he was looking kind of the same as he did Masters of the Universe, but I liked that. I liked that Gump, who is I'm not sure what he satyr maybe, but he isn't just friendly with our guy Jack and this is one of the big differences between the North American cut and this one is the scene where they meet up is a lot longer in the cut you and I watched than in the American cut.
Okay.
Because the goblins end up poisoning the unicorn. Jack doesn't know this is happening right away, and he ends up diving into the water to get the ring because she says, hey, whoever has this ring I'll marry. And so while he's in there, the goblins cut the ring for one of the horns, and suddenly it's great. He dives under and he comes up, and then all of a sudden he's under ice, and the entire world is like frozen. And then Lily realizes what's happened, and she goes on the run. And then Jack crosses paths with Gump and the fairies, and they're not exactly nice to him. They're like, what'd you do, you dumbass? And he's like, well, I let her touch me. He's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Let a mortal touch a unicorn? And then he's like, yes, but I want to fix this. Can you help me? And they're like, they don't just help him, at least in the director's cut. Now, in the US cut, they basically have a Princess Bride moment to where they cut out the stuff with the riddle, and he basically says he's about to get just mauled by the fairies for being a dumbass and letting a mortal touch a unicorn. But then he goes, I did it for love. And they're like, oh, love. And in the North American cut, they're like, oh, love. And then they cut to him pulling out the little containers for the beverages and saying, well, that's different. Well, then we'll help you. They cut out that whole like 3-minute riddle, 4-minute riddle segment, which makes you wonder if Jack's actually going to get help from these guys. I love how it played out better in the director's cut. They cut up this film and they cut out moments that let it breathe. And you have this moment between Gump and Jack, which I think is really important because that's where the whole riddle line comes up later on when they talk about, can you solve this riddle of saving Lily? So it actually comes back. So it makes more sense. It fits in more if you get the riddle scene in the beginning when they meet up.
Well, it also kind of something you were alluding to.
Mm-hmm.
It gives a bit more breathing room for these characters getting to know each other. Because when Jack confesses that he let Lily touch the unicorn and they're freaking out, and then if the American cut says, yeah, I want to save her, I want to get her back because of love, I could just imagine these guys saying, wait a second, you let this chick touch a unicorn and now you want to marry her? What's wrong with both of you?
Well, yeah, well, that's why he said he did it for love and allowed her to see the unicorns, and then they were like, oh, in North America, kind of like, oh well, love, oh well, that's different, whatever.
Right. But it's not an excuse. It's like,
No, and the director's cut, they make him work for it. And I
yeah.
liked that. I liked that they made him work for it, and that Gump didn't like the fact he got the answer. He kind of goes on a whole a Gollum like freak out when he gets beat by Jack.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Gollum because there was towards the middle and certainly towards the end of the movie,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I like Gump and all that stuff, but for a long time, as he's going on this journey, you're not sure. Partially, it's because of the actor who's got a very unique look and a very unique voice and presence. He's almost like what was it, Isaac from Children of the Corn in a certain way.
Yeah.
But also the way he's lit and the way the camera kind of plays with him, you're not quite sure if he's like an agent of the darkness who's kind of playing along in some fashion, like he's going to double cross Jack at some point during this journey. Um, he maintains that quality all the way through. It's just through the course of the story we get to find out, oh, he's okay. But even when we trust him, he's like, oh, he's kind of a little badass, and I'm glad that Jack is on his good side because I have a feeling it wouldn't have worked out so well for him. You got an arrow in the back.
His dynamic with Jack is interesting because he's helping Jack, but even along the way, this isn't like a roadshow where they become really good buddies or whatnot. He's still doing his duty. He likes Jack well enough. That's, it's not like he hates the guy, but they're not exactly best buds either because, at one point, Lily, and we'll get to what happens to Lily near the end, she takes a turn, and it looks like she may actually fall in love with the darkness and help him kill the unicorn, the last one, because the goblins go out and they capture the last unicorn. And
that's a different movie, though.
That's a different movie. Yes, I know. There was no Red Bull there. Well, actually, there's a guy with horns, though. There's a red guy with horns in here. So, but in any case, they're doing a ritual. They're going to kill the unicorn, the darkness. And I apologize for jumping around, but that's what we do here. And so she's corrupted, and Jack and Gump come up on it. They've snuck into the castle, and they've got their bows drawn. And Gump, they both got to draw it, and one's got to hit the darkness, and one's going to hit Lily possibly because she's going to be the one that cuts the unicorn. And Jack's like, and Gump's like, dude, she's gonna do it. You need to cut. He's like, no, I don't know. And then Gump's like, hell, I'll do it. He pulls out his bow. And he's like, shit, I'll stick her. I don't care. And he's like, no. And it makes for a great scene, which we'll talk about later. But just, I bring that up because there's those moments along the way to where they go along with Jack and his plans, but at the same time, you don't get the feeling like Gump and him are going to be sitting down for beers after this anytime soon. I mean, they're friends and they're friendly or whatnot, but
the very last shot of this movie is when it's the Star Wars medal montage.
Yeah.
but they're all waving at Jack. Even Gump is like, hey, so yeah, they're going to be friends after this if they ever see each other again. There's that kind of a weird moment of like, yeah, we've done our thing, and now we're going to go back to hiding in the forest, and you're going to be part of the kingdom of men with your princess or something. I didn't quite understand the end of this movie. Like, okay, darkness is vanquished, but I guess there's always going to be darkness. So could it return, or is it just like there's medium levels of evil and badness in the world, and then there's darkness, and we got rid of the bad stuff?
Yeah, well, and we'll go into it a little bit. I think I know what they were trying to go for with this, which was kind of surprising for a fantasy film of 1985. We got Talix with us. That's the power of love. Yes, it is. Talix, thanks for stopping in, checking us out.
Same year as Back to the Future.
Same year as Back to the Future as well. Yeah. So it's just interesting that he's, but yeah, by the end there, buddy, but still throughout this thing, you do question Gump, and at any point you think Gump might stick a guy if he thinks things are going sideways, he might just leave Jack and go, yeah, peace out, bitch. Even though they armor him up with armor and a sword that disappears.
Very much like our
Black
Dragon
Cult.
Slayer.
Yeah, Dragon Slayer. Yeah, there was this sword that he ends up getting from the cave, and you're like, oh, okay. And then he's walking around with it, and it at one point it eventually just like disappears. Like there must have been a moment even in the director's cut that where they ended up losing the sword. I don't know if it's implied when they end up getting taking the slide down the tunnel and getting caught in the cage that he may have lost it there and they didn't even focus on it. But he gets the sword and he's got this armor, and it's a good thing he's got the sword because he meets up with a bog wench which wants to eat him. And this, folks, the production design, the makeup effects, the practical makeup effects for your goblins in this are insane. And this witch just, you get the full body stand up, and it is creepy as hell. And in the North American cut, okay, you get a little bit of an exchange of them going back and forth where he's hiding behind a shield and she's attacking him. She's like, oh, you're scrumptious. You're going to taste really good. You're plump. And then he pushes her and swings his sword and cuts her head off. That's it. It's like a minute at most, if not two. You miss that whole thing where he outwits her by getting her to stare at her reflection in the shield, which puts so much more, gives your Jack character a little bit more to him. The fact that he outwits this goblin basically to distract her enough to cut her head off.
Well, there's a lot that's going on in that scene. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Because it shows that it establishes that even though this is a fantasy world, it still deals in sort of real world physics.
Right.
Because Jack has the sword sheathed and he keeps trying to pull it out, but it's super heavy inside his like waist scabbard. And she keeps, even though she's looking at herself in the shield, she keeps looking back whenever she hears him fumbling with the sword. She's like, what are you doing over there? It's like, oh, nothing. And then you're so beautiful. And she goes back to admiring herself. And finally, when he gets the sword almost all the way out, she notices, but she's so distracted by her own beauty that he gets the jump on her. It's this great little, these moments of tension. Whereas you're right, in the normal course of things, and apparently in the US theatrical cut, he pulls out the sword and chops her head off. Whereas that's a very generic fantasy thing to do. But in this movie, it felt very real. Much like something else I want to mention before I forget again. The unicorns, there's a scene, I think it's when Jack is sort of kneeling down before the one unicorn. It looks like it's glowing almost from the inside, but you realize it's just bottom lit. It's just the cinematography of this movie is so spot on, particularly in the woods, what before the darkness falls and then after the darkness falls, where everything is covered in snow. Like there's glitter and sparkles on everything, but it seems to have a different texture depending on where it lands. This film is gorgeous, and I'm hoping at some point someone's going to bring it back to the big screen or something and play the director's cut, because this American cut sounds like trash.
And it's probably why it didn't get received as well in the States, because it is chopped up quite a bit, and you're missing these moments. Like I said, the moment where he meets up with Gump, the moment basically where he's meeting up with characters, you end up getting that trimmed quite a bit. And watching them back to back today, you do see the stark contrast, and the director's cut flows so much better. There's scenes that are put out of order as well.
Yeah, tell me about that. You mentioned that earlier. I'm very curious.
There's scenes like when it was early in the forest, because the music scenes are cut out. You don't get her singing at all in any of the US parts. So there isn't
I'm not bothered.
No, I know, but there's that angle of it. When she when you get into the cabin, Well, the movie starts off with a movie crawl in the North American one. You get a crawl of
no.
explanation. Yeah, I know how you love those.
Do they still have the darkness kind of giving his monologue? Well, that was early on. That wasn't exactly the opening, I don't think.
No, that was just after, but you do
Okay.
get the scroll. You do get the scroll, and then you get the credits. But the thing is, we see more of the goblins kind of traipsing through the woods during the credits than we do in the director's cut. I think we only get to see a foot or something just before, but you get a little bit more of, it's just a bit out of, it's mostly in that forest scene area to where too with the whole ring situation goes a little bit longer, and it's just played out different. It's hard to describe because they're just small bits that are put in different order, but at the same time, like when she goes up to touch the unicorn, when she goes up to touch the unicorn gives in right away. So like when she comes up and like the unicorn approaches her and she puts her hand out to put her hand on the nose of the unicorn. And then in this director's cut, when she comes up, the unicorns are kind of freaking out and she has to drop to her knees and kind of cover herself up before that. And so they play that, and the goblins are pulling out the dagger, but that comes in different sequence too. So it's really weird, some of the choices they made to put things out of order or in just slightly different things. To, I would say it's more awkward. It's definitely plays out more awkward. It does. And so, yeah, and this was the version in to the US was PG, even though you got a guy getting chopped up on a table in the darkness's hold there, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, there's a scene that I thought was, or it's a moment inside of a scene that I thought was really impressive. When the goblins get hold of the unicorn horn, the main one, I can't remember what his name was. Bix?
Blix, I think it is.
Blix? Anyway, he's kind of dancing around, showing off his, it's Blix. Showing off his powers, setting things on fire and all this other stuff. And then one of the other ones grabs the horn and says, "Now it's mine now." He's the one with the giant doofy helmet.
Yeah.
And then an emissary of the darkness shows up and says, "Yeah, what are you doing with that horn? You're supposed to bring that to me, right?"
Yeah.
And the one little guy in the helmet's like, "I've got the horn now. I guess I'm the one in charge." And darkness is like, "You sure you want to do that?" You're like, "Yeah, what are you going to do about it?" And the darkness reanimates a corpse that's underneath the ground just below this little goblin that has the horn. The corpse rises up, picks him up, and then just walks over to the edge of an abyss and plunges them both down. I was like, I have never seen that before. That is amazing. I was slightly disappointed by the fact that goblin shows up later, that they had just gone into a little prison, kind of like holding cell. I liked that sequence ultimately, but it was just so cool to think, he just 86'd a guy using a corpse.
Yeah, I enjoyed that scene too, where Blix, he doesn't just take the horn back; he plays with the power a bit. They bust into the home where the princess was. That's now everybody's all frozen, and she's hiding while the goblins are in there ransacking it and playing with the horn quite a bit. You see Blix just start to get his power, hungry. I mean, on one hand, when we first get introduced to Blix, he seems more like the your standard minion, like we saw in the Black Cauldron with our one-eyed guy. But Blix has a little bit more of a personality to him and a little bit more of an attitude to him. And so, I liked this kind of trio of characters. And you had the pig guy who's like, "Oh, can you just turn things into a big pile of slop?"
Yeah, I mean, you put a pair of glasses on him and he's a Ninja Turtles villain. they were all great. Now, the thing is, Blix seems to disappear from the movie
Yeah.
when they get into the fortress, and when what happens to Lily, and it kind of becomes more about her in the darkness. I didn't miss anything, did I? Like,
Mm-mm.
he just drops out. He didn't die or whatever.
No, there's no scene where they confront him, or we have our our team who's infiltrated the castle to try to rescue the last unicorn. They don't encounter him, as far as I saw. Now, what's interesting is the original cut apparently is 2 hours, 2.5 hours long.
Wow.
Supposedly, one of the bits I read that yeah, he cut it down because some of the patrons, when they did show earlier screenings of his longer one, had him second guessing himself apparently. So he did eventually cut it down.
This thing has more
Um,
cuts than Blade Runner. Jeez.
yeah, right.
Oh.
I
And
know
I
it's
and I would not mind. Let's just hope this cut exists somewhere. I'd like to watch it. I would love to have a set that has all 3 versions of it to compare and contrast, because even if it's stuff that he was kind of pressured into cutting, maybe it was fluff, maybe it was really good stuff, and that test audience just was tired and they didn't know what they were watching. Because I feel like 1985, there were a lot of fantasy movies kinda in the conversation then, but we didn't have Lord of the Rings and Peter Jackson to say, "No, it's okay to go on for 3+ hours with this stuff. Don't worry about it. People will get it."
well, I mean, you introduce so much in this, and then yeah, some things just disappear. It would been nice to, even give me a 2 hour cut that at least explain, shows some of these little things, and I wouldn't mind it, because the world they create, while we said they don't like expand on it and give you a lot of information, visually there's so much information going on in this world. You know exactly where things are, what things are, if you've seen any fantasy whatsoever. you know and you get a fairy in here who really likes Jack, and she could take human form, and she was actually hiding that secret from Gump and his buddies. But she eventually, because they get trapped in this prison in the kitchen of the darkness, she's forced to reveal herself, and then you get a moment that is similar to the Matrix. I'm glad you brought it up, because she could change her form, which means she could fly out between the bars and go, unlock their door and help them. But she's like, well, before you do that, Jack, you got to give me a kiss. And I'm like, well, this feels familiar. And then he kisses her, and everybody's like, that's not a kiss, because he just does like a peck on the cheek. And it's just like, oh, come on. And then she makes herself look like Lily. And then he's like, and then he's like, yeah, no, I'm still not gonna kiss you. And she helps them anyway, reluctantly, but
But she does leave the door. She does slam the door kind of in Jack's face. She lets everyone else go, and then she shuts. I don't think she locks him in, or maybe
no,
someone else comes
no,
in and gets him out. But
yeah.
um, I got a question. I'm not as up on my fantasy lore as I should be, possibly, but is there a thing with fairies and bubbles? Because there's bubbles all over. Like, anytime the fairy manifests her human form, there's bubbles everywhere. And I've got a very specific reason I'm asking this question. But do you know anything about this?
I'm not sure. I didn't look it up. I mean, fairies, there's been so many different, iterations and interpretations of fairies, a lot of either good and wholesome, or fairies are just freaking dicks, to fairies really being kind of darker creatures. So I think the bubbles in here was their choice in doing the bubbles.
Well, because 4 years later, we would see this same thing again in Scrooge
Scrooged, yeah.
with Carol Kane as the kind of the sassy fairy, and she's got bubbles everywhere. Like, what is going on here?
Well, even her look in Scrooged, even
Very
her
much.
look looks just like our fairy here. And so what I saw her, I'm like, I had forgotten that the fairy takes human form. So when I saw her, I'm like, wow, she looks like, similar to Carol Kane's character in
I Yeah, that would be funny if because was that Richard Donner that did Scrooged?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if he was a big like
Mhm.
the one legend fan in
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Oh, that was Una was her name, was the um actress who played the fairy. Interesting enough, Blix was actually played by Alice Playton. So
Mhm.
that I think is interesting. Though and that's what I like too. The goblins are kind of played a little androgynous in here. You're not quite, they it's never brought up, but it's still the way they handle the fantasy so well in this. I think. I think that's what really helps is that they handle it so well.
Yeah, and I think I was thinking about this in relation to Dragon Slayer and Black Cauldron. I mean, those are basically your standard. Again, I use the Star Wars trope, but your farm boy or your wizard's apprentice
Yeah.
who goes off on the big adventure. Here, it's just we don't really know much about Jack. Maybe he was a farmer's apprentice or something, but he's just this guy who lives in the woods, who he goes off on this rescue mission, but he doesn't you never get the feeling that he could really take charge unless he had these other people with him. They really
Right.
seem to bolster him. It's kind of a team effort, this rescue, and I really liked that. There's no real moment of him, taking down the Death Star and any of that stuff. Um, and as far as well, I guess he does kind of defeat the darkness in his own way. But I want to get back to that thing with Lily and her transformation.
Oh, man, yeah.
Let's get into
Let's
this.
talk about that.
Was that in the US cut?
It wasn't as long in the US cut. The dance
Okay.
sequence in the European one definitely feels more, natural in her transformation. Also with it, they used a different reaction shot when she sees the jewels at first. Like when she's over at the fireplace, and then when she turns around and sees the jewels in the first in the North American cut, it looked like she was a little more curious. In the director's cut, she immediately gets that obsession, like, oh damn, I want these jewels for me look in the North. And I know it's one shot, but still it makes a bit of a difference. It shows that, just how strong the temptation is, because the darkness is told by his father, who we never really get to see, the voice of, if you want to say the devil or whoever. His father says he needs to seduce her, corrupt her, pull her in, because the darkness really wants to have her as his. And so yeah, he puts out the jewels, and the dance sequence is longer, but it's there.
The one thing I noticed about the jewels, and it's probably a happy accident, but it's like this giant necklace thing, and she's holding it up, and as it's kind of coming up in the frame over her face, the draping of that bottom layer of jewels has the same shape as her smile when she's appreciating them.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
thought
and
that
well,
was
you can
really
see
cool.
her eyes on either side of it too when it comes out. It's a fantastic shot.
Yeah,
I
it's like a
mean,
mask of jewels. Yeah, it's great. Um, that is one thing I thought you clarified something for me that I thought I was losing my mind, but darkness is kind of talking to or referring to another more powerful being than he, and that kind of threw me for a loop. He's like he wants to rule the land and turn everything dark, but he's also got a boss. I don't
well, I don't think it was his boss. I think it was the spirit of his dad. I think his dad, whoever you want to interpret it to be, because there are some interesting Christian parallels in this film. Um, whoever his dad is a spirit within the tree or whatnot. But I got the feeling like it's just like their presence, like he can't do shit anymore. Like, his spirit lives there, but his dad, uh darkness is doing his own thing, but he's still got the parent there who's like retired in some way, shape, or form, either was killed or whatnot. So he's just kind of the old man who's just sitting there trying to give his dumb son some advice.
which I feel like that needs to be part of a crawl
Yeah.
or a backstory, because you're building up this entire movie of like him being the darkness, like
Mhm.
the humanoid manifestation of evil, and then it's like, but there's this committee. I don't know.
I mean, it could also be, something like he hears this in his head or whatnot as well, it's hard to say with it. Yeah, that part wasn't explained much of suddenly he's just like father. Um, but it, in the crawl, like even in the beginner, what they talk about how there was only darkness and then light came out and pushed the darkness down. So again, you could look just underneath the surface and see, oh, we've got the story of creation here. The first day, the second day there, let there be light or whatnot. The almost the setup of this um
It's
in a
slightly
manner.
different because, you know, the Christian story is that it's not that there was darkness and that was bad. It's just that there was darkness and then there was light,
Right.
and
No.
everything else that, good, bad, and all that. So that came after. This is an interesting idea, although it does kind of remind me of that one Star Trek. No, it's Thor: The Dark World, the
Yes.
second one, where it's like, again, a bunch of space goblins, and they want to destroy everything because they were in the far reaches of space, but they hate
Right.
light. But I'm like, it's the far reaches of space. Just stay there. Why do you give a shit about Earth
Yeah.
anyway?
Yeah, no, I did. Well, they gave a shit about Earth because Thor did, because they wanted the revenge on Thor. So
But again, why?
but,
Like
but why? Yeah. You're
the
far away.
far
Yeah.
reaches of space.
You can live your own life out there. There's lots of places to go.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, but the getting a roundabout way, getting back to Lily's transformation. First, she's seduced a bit by the jewelry, and then there's this wonderful sequence where this shadow person shows up in this wonderful dress that you know any goth person would just love this dress for sure. And it dances, and it's a great visual representation of her kind of coming to the dark side, because they do this wonderful choreographed dance scene, and she's spinning and she's twirling, and then all of a sudden she's in the dress. It, like, she goes from being a dance partner to becoming it. And I just love that scene. I love that idea. I mean, her hair changed. She just goes total, like, dark look.
I love it too, except,
Mhm.
and this solidified a little splinter that was in my head, but you speaking it out loud, I don't know how this movie is kind of misogynist in a way,
Mhm.
because as I was describing like Lily's terrible decisions at the beginning of this movie, and now I'm looking at her terrible decisions in this scene. It's like she hates the darkness. She understands that he wants to destroy the world and kill this precious unicorn, and she's going to stand against him until, oh wow, sparkly necklace and a nice dress.
Hmm.
It's kinda like, Luke Skywalker being tempted by a Playboy and a bratwurst. It's just like the stupidest, most base sexist nonsense,
It
but
it
I'll let
it
it
is.
slide.
It is, but I mean, if you put it in the fairy tale context, and I'm not excusing it, I'm just saying the reason it's there is that ends up happening in the fairy tale. I mean, the whole thing with Aladdin is go through the treasure and only grab the lamp, don't touch anything else, even though there's gold and jewels and everything that could just make you very rich, just even a handful. I mean, and the dragon's hoard, and
Right, but
they're
the thing about those stories,
Mhm.
and we kinda touched on this earlier, she's a princess. Now we don't know what
Yeah,
that means in the context of this world, but it's not like, Aladdin going into this giant treasure thing and,
he was
only
poor.
pulling
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
yeah, he was poor.
Mhm.
She's her mom probably got her like 3 of those necklaces for her
Yeah.
birthday one year. And then the dress is like, it's a nice dress. I'm seduced by it, but I just needed a little bit more in terms of the pull away from it and the seduction. I did think it was cool. It's interesting you mentioned it being kind of like a shadow that shows up. I thought it was just the best way that they could pull off in 1985 the idea of this just being the animated dress.
Oh, yeah.
Like now it
Yeah,
would be all CG
yeah.
and still look pretty cool, but this it's so darkly lit that you can't tell really who or what is inside that dress as it's dancing with her, but it's
Mhm.
it's spooky as hell.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great character. Definitely it's spooky, and it just makes for a really cool scene. The only thing that I would fall back with her going towards the jewels and then the dress is, and I think they mentioned he does drop the line. I'm trying to remember if it's not in the director's cut or not, but in the North American cut, I remember it specifically. One of the first things that the father mentions is that he must hypnotize her. He must hypnotize her. He must seduce her. He must win her over. So,
Yes, yeah. Mhm.
and I think that's mentioned in the director's cut too. So I think
Yeah.
it's implied that she's just because she's, a female and just because she's a princess, I don't think it's implied that, ooh, shiny. I think it's also inadvertently not very well implied that those items are immediately hypnotizing her because, like I said, the way her face looks in the director's cut makes a little bit more of that idea than what you get in the North American cut, in which case she kind of looks at it curiously, whereas in this one she just looks around and she looks like she wants to take that home, like.
Mhm. But again, I do see where you're coming from. I just still think it's a little bit, I hate this word, problematic, that because the instruction is you need to seduce her, you need
Right,
to
no,
hypnotize
yeah,
her.
no.
He could have done the Dracula eyes or something like that, but instead he's like, "Oh, I'll send a necklace and a dress." Girls like that, right?
Well, I mean, he's a
We're
dumb
j
he's a
we
he's a
were
dumb
just lucky
darkness
we were
guy,
lucky
so
it wasn't pink. That's all
yeah.
I'm saying.
He's a dumb darkness guy. And what I liked is that they do a good job, I think, of not overselling her fighting his power, because she gets the wicked dress on. Um, the dress that definitely would have had Ferris Bueller calling the day off for. Um, but, and she's sitting there and she's exchanging words with the darkness, and this isn't in the North American cut either. That scene's longer because they have back and forth. She's in the dress. He talks about he wants her to sit down,
Mm.
and they really cut that part out, and just she takes a brief look and she goes, no, I prefer to stand. And then he's like, oh, okay, if you want to stand, that's fine, we
Oh,
can
man, that
talk.
sucks because that's really fun in the director's cut because he keeps thinking that she's gonna do it, and then she's pulls the rug out from under him metaphorically, and he's like, "Damn it."
Yeah, because
You see him get frustrated. It's very funny.
because where she wants to sit, there's a hand there, and you get the impression he's very adamant about her sitting in the chair so he could trap her and stare her or whatnot, and finally kind of completely win her over, at least hold her. And yeah, and she kind of snaps out of it a little bit, and she wakes up and she sees the hand moving, and then you get the impression she's playing him, and it's a great moment. And that's what I liked about this, is the fact that you get the impression that even when she says, especially when she says, hey, I want to cut the throat of the unicorn, she's like, you offer my blood. You've got the darkness going, yeah. And I'm immediately going, dude, she's playing you like a fiddle. She is not going to cut the unicorn at all.
Well, and that speaks to, the arrogance of evil, and, I mean, he's been sitting in this kingdom, ruling over these dumb trolls for however long. He probably thinks that he's the shit, and he just doesn't think that a mortal teenage girl or whatever can get one over on him. So it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, let me ask you this.
Hmm.
I know Tim Curry did the voice of darkness. Was that him in the suit as well,
Yeah,
or was that
that was him
that
in
was
the suit.
him?
That was him in the suit. And in fact, he had a bad experience where he got claustrophobic and it ended up tearing it off him, and it ended up tearing part of his skin as well. But yeah, they had to come up with a harness and everything, and it was apparently very bulky to wear.
I can
It wasn't
imagine.
exactly a great experience, but you can't tell on camera because Tim Curry, you get him in this makeup and he's like totally scary darkness guy. It's just like,
Well, it's also I don't know what he was like at that point in 1985,
mhm.
but the musculature
Oh
on
yeah.
this body, I don't know if that was like sculpted muscles or whatever, but it looked convincing.
It looked pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people remember the most is his character design. A lot of people in North America, they remember the production design of this film more so than the movie itself, which again, if you watch the North American version, I can see why, because it plays out far more messy than the director's cut. And I'm glad I watched them back to back, because I was glad I watched the director's cut, because it's far more of a solid film. Things make far more sense in this. We get more shots early of the void, which they talk about the darkness being kind of trapped. And so you get the idea of this portal, this opening in the throne room of where darkness hole is part of the actual darkness, like space, like the void itself. That got pushed back by the light. And you see it a few more times. So it's not as a surprise, like when the light hits him. It's not as a surprise that he's getting pushed back into there, because at least it's established earlier in the director's cut that that's actually there. In North America, you don't get to see that void shot until then. It's like, you're like, what?
And it is very much that end shot reminded me a lot of Dark City, and how that movie ended, because they're basically floating out in space.
Yeah.
But yeah, damn, this reminds me of when we talked about what they did to the theatrical version of Once Upon a Time in America, like cutting it down from like 3.5 hours to an hour and a half or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it does. It's amazing, and it's funny that we're talking about another Ridley Scott film, because we talked about Blade Runner and the different iterations of that. It's funny we're talking about that again with the same director.
Man, I feel like the only reason to watch the theatrical cut of Legend at this point is just for something like we're doing here tonight, compare and contrast, because it sounds like everything that makes this movie special and really kind of smart is in that director's cut.
Oh yeah. Well, and even the score, that was the biggest. I mean, if anyone wants a lesson, if you ever want a lesson, a quick lesson in how difference a score can make to a movie. And I learned this because I took a soundtrack class, go figure, in college. It was an elective. And yeah, I took it. And I was that guy. I was literally that guy who, after a while, the professor would look at me and I would just put my hand back down when he would ask a question because I knew the answer. And then eventually he'd just look at me and I wouldn't put my hand up right away to give the others a chance to, because yeah, I just love my soundtracks. But anyway, it shows you the difference, because the Tangerine Dream score, which I like the music, gives a totally different vibe to this entire movie than the Jerry Goldsmith score, which is gorgeous. Jerry Goldsmith's score in this sets up so much of this movie.
So, it reminds me of last week when we were talking about this, I think kind of off the air. You had mentioned that Tangerine Dream did the score for this, and I didn't think about it until just now. I'm like, well, I really enjoyed the Goldsmith score, but did Tangerine Dream did the whole score for the theatrical cut?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now I might have to go watch that just to see. Damn.
It's more, more modern electronic type vibe. If you've heard a Tangerine Dream score, you know what you're in for. So
yeah, risky business with
risky business. Yeah. It changes the tone and the emotional feelings of some of these scenes. It's just, they hit different. You hear Goldsmith, who knows how to use an orchestra, and his score for this is beautiful. Really what you want for a fantasy film. It changes the feel of these scenes and of this movie. And yeah, it makes a big difference.
I've got an idea. Someone out there needs to do this if they haven't already. You take the opening, not the precise opening of Risky Business involves the Chicago L train, but the main in of the film after the credits is the close-up of Tom Cruise and the sunglasses, and it's kind of panning out, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he says, "The dream is always the same." And you wipe from that, and then the rest of it is just legend.
He's actually dreaming of Legend.
Yeah.
Sure, why not? That'll work. The entire all of Legend is just his dream before he goes on and running a prostitution ring in his house.
His tangerine dream,
Tangerine dream. Yeah, exactly. Wow. That's definitely, yeah. But no, I just watching them back to back. Now I watched a movie in between those two, so I've watched like
Damn, Mark, that's this was your entire day was movies, wasn't
this
it?
is pretty much my entire day. So yeah, watching it though, the score immediately just it hits you different when you hear that musical, that instrumental score. It just totally hits you differently when you first watch this film for sure. It's more upfront too. They mix it so you can actually hear the score more in this. And yeah, it's wild to see the two different cuts, and I highly would recommend the director's cut for sure, because so much of it is just flows so much better and you get those character moments. One of the other things, and we'll wrap it up here, but one of the things I kind of dug too, in most fantasy stuff, like the tree or a tree is considered like the good guy, like Mother Earth or whatever. And in this case, the tree is where the darkness is hiding under its roots in that. So you've got this huge tree in the forest, and that's where the darkness lives. And I thought that just was pretty amazing that that's where, the tree was keeping the darkness down, and so that's where it lives. And the other thing, and I wanted to know what the set design. I don't think I've seen many fantasy films where the bad guy's hold is just riddled with bodies and swords of guys who have tried to take it.
Yeah, I mean it's a great look. It's also you get the feeling that if you could see anything, it'd be very like ornate or at
Right.
least detailed, but it's so dark and it's just
Mhm.
it's fitting. You've got darkness, so he's not in a giant well-lit castle whose point is just to show off the production design. But what we do see, to your point earlier, tells an entire story of the world that what that happened up until we encountered it. I think it's great.
Well, and everything's moist down there because they're in the darkness. I mean, his chair is glistening with
That's why she wouldn't sit on it.
that's why she wouldn't sit on it. The chair she was going to sit on is wet. All the goblins constantly look wet. Like
And that's another parallel with Alien. That's when he encounters
Mhm.
the bog monster. I thought that is when Brett encounters the xenomorph coming down from the chains. Like it's all dripping and oozing and dangerous.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, Legend is the director's cut's far better in every way. It's a solid film. It's an enjoyable film. You could see the underlying message, maybe to the idea of a coming of age story, to where our guy Jack is becoming a man. He's moving from adolescence into adulthood. The adolescence of him living in the trees amongst the fairy folks and such, and amongst the woodland creatures. He talks to him. He's an innocent, not completely, because in at least the North American version, he has a love scene with a Lily of sorts. But yeah, they have a makeout scene. In
When in
the
the story?
like right before they go see the unicorns, he lays her down on a bed of roses and they do some superimposing stuff and such.
I'm trying to remember if
And
this would have been like last night when I watched it. I
yeah,
don't
I
happen to
don't
recall that in
recall
particular.
seeing that scene when I watched it recently. It just
Hmm.
is a little more innocent. But anyway, so you have his innocence, you have him playing in the woods, he'd being, a kid or whatnot, and he meets Lily, who's the love of his life. He goes through this whole thing of darkness where he's dealing, you could parallel it with someone going through, hormonal changes, a man or whatever, going through, puberty and such. And suddenly, oh, look, he's going to leave his fanciful buddies behind as he goes off to get married and get a 9 to 5 job. And, you know,
There you go.
there you go.
The darkness is the drudgery of the workaday life. That's what he's fighting
The
against.
darkness is adulthood, and while he conquered it, it also led to him having a better understanding of the world and him leaving his frivolous life behind to be lord with the princess at whatever castle which is different too, because in the North American version they go off together. In this one, they go off separately. She takes off, and then he's like, yeah, you know what? No, sorry, I gotta go, guys.
She probably just wants to go touch another unicorn. He's like,
she
I'm gonna
wants
have
to
to deal
go,
with this
where's
shit
that
again.
unicorn?
Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah. so so there you have it, folks. Legend. I think you get our feelings, but your final thought with this, Ian, on a Legend.
Where's my ultimate edition with all 3 cuts or all 12 cuts, however many there may be? Why isn't it in 4K? That's the disappointment of these things, especially the movies that come out and they're considered commercial or artistic flops. And then you find out that there's another cut out there. You're like, man, if only people had gotten to see the best foot forward right out of the gate, maybe we would still be talking about this. And I want to reiterate, because we talked about this at the beginning of the conversation. This is, and I still can't think of one, but I think this might be a unique Tom Cruise performance. If you can set aside what you think of Tom Cruise and just remember that this is still very early in his career when he's, Top Gun is around the corner. He's done Risky Business, but he might be in that sort of what I'll call the Timothy Chalamet period, where he's kind of known for being something, so wants to try something different. In this case, like a Marty Supreme. But this is the exact opposite of that, getting rid of the masculine superstar ego and just being an innocent, nice, noble, heroic guy. I think people will be really surprised by it, and also maybe wonder, like me, why hasn't he done more things like this? And possibly it's because, well, he became Tom Cruise, but like now that he's Tom Cruise, he could literally do anything, take any risk. And it's kind of unfortunate that he's stuck in, Ethan Hunt mode.
It is kind of unfortunate because he really puts in a really good performance in here, a different performance. It's funny because they were looking, I guess, at Johnny Depp to be initially, and also for Lily, they were going to pick Jennifer Connelly for Lily. So yeah, that's interesting.
Okay. The only reason that would have been a better choice is because of the dress.
That's right.
Moving on.
But for me, I'm the same way. I think first off, see the director's cut. It's a far better cut. It makes more sense. It's a more solid film. Watch it not just for Tom Cruise. Star Trek fans who may have watched recently Starfleet Academy that just came out, you may not recognize him because he's in makeup and they make him look small. But Robert Picardo is in here as Meg Mucklebones, as the one of the elves that ends up getting captured in the kitchen. So
I saw his name in the end credits, and I couldn't remember, or like couldn't place where I'd seen him in the movie. But
Meg Mucklebones. No, Meg is the that was the. I'm sorry, no, he wasn't one of the dwarves. I think Mucklebones was the goblin in the swamp.
The one who was admiring her reflection?
Yeah, well, or no, it was Meg. I forgot which one. But anyway, because I barely recognized because everybody said makeup. So anyway, Robert Picardo's in here as Meg Mucklebones. I have to watch it again. I don't remember offhand Meg because they don't, always mention a lot of names.
Wait, Mark, before we go, there's something I wanted to ask you and I forgot. And
Yeah.
I'll try and keep this brief. Your answer, maybe you can keep brief. I don't know. Had you seen Legend before watching both these today?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I forgot until I started watching it how much he was the swamp witch, Meg.
That was Robert Picardo?
That was Robert Picardo.
Wow.
That was Robert Picardo. That's what I thought. It wasn't the dwarf because I was like, how did they make him so small? I'm like, no, wait. He was Meg Mucklebones. Robert Picardo was the swamp goblin witch.
That's wild because I know he's from Star Trek, but I mostly remember him as 2 years from now he's going to be playing the gym teacher in the Wonder Years. Like that's where I remember him from.
Yeah, he's Meg Mucklebones is.
I gotta go back and watch that scene before I return the DVD to the library because that's wild, man.
Yeah, that boggles my mind. Here, hold on, let me see if I can do this here. Yeah, that's Robert Picardo.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, so Robert Picardo's in here, and I will say as well that it's also a role where Mia Sara gets to act a bit more than what you might have saw her in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She gets to actually, play a character in here, and she, like I said, when she's playing evil self, I loved it. I mean, she just was relishing playing a dark version of Lily. You could just tell she was having fun, and she pulls it off well. But everybody does well in here, and I highly recommend you try to check it out. Don't, go by the Rotten Tomatoes score or its reputation. I think there's a lot to love in here. I think it should get the 4K treatment. The practical effects in here would hold up so damn well. The effects in here and the designs and the sets would hold up so well in this movie.
I got to ask you one more question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
The scene where Lily is about to kill the unicorn.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, Jack has his arrow trained on darkness, and then Gump pulls out his arrow and is going to shoot Lily. What if, as she's bringing down the axe or whatever on the chain to set the unicorn free, Gump actually shoots and kills her? What do you think happens? What happens? How does this movie end from there?
Wow, that's a tough call. I mean, the unicorn escapes. I think the unicorn escapes because there's still chaos. Yeah, that's tough. I think Jack still goes after the darkness because, you're not sure if she's really dead yet or not, even though she gets hit, but yeah, that'd be a wild scenario. Gump's like, nah, screw you. Yep, and Talix corrected me. Yep, we Muckle Bones is the swamp hag with the long fingers. It's, like I said, a little tough to remember. It's been a long day, but thank you, Talix, for the confirmation. And the fact that that's Robert Picardo and you look at it, go, wait, what? Shows you the joys of practical effects. So
it's the same as what Rob Bottin did to Tim Curry, because aside from, that's why I could not believe the voice is unmistakable, but the physicality of that performance, even the face, he's got a very distinct face, and I could understand him being covered under that makeup, being claustrophobic, but you can't tell that that's him.
No, most of these folks and these character actors you don't recognize because the makeup is that good. It is not just prosthetic noses and such. They go full transformation in this movie, and it's better for it. Watching it again, I rediscovered the love because I watched this a lot of times because of fantasy film, and I consumed that when I was young, and I recommend it. And anyone out there, not that the film folks ever listen, but I don't think this has gotten a proper HD treatment in that, but it deserves it. I think it deserves it. I think you'd find a new audience for it for sure, especially with the names in it. So there you go, folks. Fantastically Dark Legend, approved by both of us. We've got one that Ian enjoyed. Woo-hoo! I feel better.
Talk about a unicorn.
So now is where I give our good friend Ian the license to shill. So please, sir, tell folks where they can find your stuff at.
Well, I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com. I also have a show on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and look up Kicking the Seat, you'll find the place where I do live streams and movie reviews and interviews and all that good stuff. This coming Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central, we'll be doing a live stream panel on 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, a film that really surprised the hell out of me. You'll find out why if you do join in Tuesday night. So thank you much. I'm also here every Sunday talking about movies.
It's Mark. Tuesday night. I might still be able to make that. I'll have to see. But
sign up, Mark. I want you on that show.
Maybe not, depending on how you felt about the movie. Anyway, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Hope you're enjoying these shows. Talix, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you check out Talix's Twitch channel. That's TAL with 4 X's. So TALXXXX. Please check it out on the Twitch channel there. And Talix, always great to talk to you. Talk great to everybody here. Talix doesn't stream, but still, anyway, thank you, Talix. Shout out to you for the support and the chat. Always, you have a face for radio. So do we, but we're on the video anyway. So thank you so much, all, one and all. Appreciate you. And next week, we close it out. We were talking about the Odyssey in our pre-show, which you can check out for $1 on the Patreon. And yeah, next week we're talking Clash of the Titans, which, has some creatures that end up showing up in the Odyssey, possibly. So tune in for that, folks. And until next time, we'll just say good night, everyone.